choosing your harm. And
Sir, can I say something actually relating to Dr. K? I had a client, and you asked me to tell this on the pod. Obviously, I'll keep everything confidential and private so that it doesn't get out. But my first client showed up to my practice with a gun loaded with 2 rounds.
Oh, yeah.
2 rounds, one for me and one for him, is what I still suspect. But obviously he's in a much better place now. But when I first started my practice, we had rented a doctor's office, and the doctor was working Monday to Friday. So he's like, "You can have it Saturday, Sunday." I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine. We'll take Saturday and Sunday. We're paying peanuts for it." So I show up to work. It was Sunday, probably Sunday afternoon, something like that. This is my first private client ever. I had left the
yeah, you're shook. You're like, I don't know if I want to do this job.
No, so I show up to the office. It's raining. It's pouring rain. Probably
it was Noir. It was like, you know, in Vancouver,
yeah.
1 week of straight water.
Yeah. And so I show up, and he shows up with a backpack. He'd never come to session with a backpack. Immediately, my mind goes somewhere dark. I'm thinking, what's in there? And it's heavy. You know, there's a part of the backpack that's sunken in, and the rest of the bag is normal. And so we're doing our session. We're going through it, and he starts opening up to me. He says, "You know, there's something I have to tell you," and he starts breaking down. And I'm freaking out at this point. It was all my worst fears were realized.
You weren't freaking out where he notices you. Did he notice?
No, you wouldn't be able to see it in me. Inside, I'm freaking out.
Inside,
in the bag. But Zerka, the problem is that my biggest fear, the thing that I dreaded most, that, you know, we all catastrophize to some extent, and then we're proven incorrect, right? Oh, it turned out to be nothing. No, it went the opposite route.
Yeah.
It was
a
gun. It was his dad's revolver with 2 rounds in it. And he says to me, he told me that he was planning on killing himself. But there was some part of him that said, "Go to this last session, give it one more chance," something to that effect. And I remember slowly just shaking, putting my hand out, asking him to give me the revolver. And by the way, we're the only people in the entire building, because we have it on a Sunday. Nobody's working.
And people don't know how young you were. You were young.
I was young. I was probably 25, 26, something like that. Yeah. He was probably a couple years younger than me.
Because I remember my class, I was like, you walk in, I'm like, how's work? You know, it's like first week at the job, right? First real session. But yo, some people would say you manifested that. But it's your first one, so how?
Yeah, and so I sort of put my hand out shaking, and I asked him to give it to me. And I wasn't sure how much to get into, you know, the mental health side of things. I just asked him, you know, whose gun is this, et cetera. It turned out to be his dad's. You know, I still haven't reported it to this day. We asked him, we sort of talked through it. I called his dad. It turned out to be his dad's gun, and his dad came and picked it up. And to this day, I wonder, there were 2 rounds in there. 2 rounds. We were the only 2 people in the building. Was one of those for me? Was one of those for him? So
that'll drive you crazy thinking of that.
Yeah, you know what the strangest?
And it's not someone you knew. It's not someone you knew and had sessions with. It's just a random.
We had about 4 sessions together. I want to say probably about it.
Yeah, so you didn't even know his favorite color. He's just some fucking stranger.
And he came back and he saw me every week for the next year. We spent probably of that next year, we probably spent 6 months talking about it. And I never could bring myself to ask the question, why 2 rounds? I feel like there's some part of me that maybe didn't want to know. But now he's doing great. He's in a much better place. I never reported it. The dad took the gun. We negotiated. We sort of talked about what, you know, that he has to keep it completely hidden and safe. And yeah, that's one of my first counseling stories. This is the one that I wanted to.
Which is funny because after that you had like a year of very boring. It wasn't ever. It wasn't. But for a year he was worried it's gonna get intense every episode, right? But it was like a year of boring after that. So that was good.
By the way, I should mention he's a great kid. I ended up seeing him for a long time after that. He's in a much better place. Sort of has a happy ending. But it was my first client, and then from there it was just sort of like And
then you're hooked. You're like, this is my career.
Yeah. I still to this day wonder about that, because I
wonder how you didn't quit the fucking clinic. You're like, fuck this shit.
But imagine this, you're in a building by yourself. It's a Sunday. It's pissing rain.
Yeah.
There's nobody else in there. It's just the 2 of you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. Maybe to me it sounds a little bit stranger than it is.
What if you just beat the shit out of him? What if you just beat the shit out of that guy? Wouldn't that have helped him a bit? Could you imagine, Chad, if you? I don't know, man, because a lot of these guys who like have their head to the ground. My first instinct is, you ain't gonna do shit. But then, you know, a lot of times we're wrong. Sometimes they do shit, you know?
The strangest thing is you never know, because the ones that I never suspected would struggle with those types of thoughts do, and the ones that I think would be struggling with it don't. But anyways, guys, so that's my first counseling story. I know somebody in the chat asked, you know, what counseling is like, if they should get into it. My suggestion, make sure you operate during regular hours. You don't want to end up alone in a room. And
Sorry.
Yeah, you never know who you're gonna end up with. I have some wild stories. Where did you go?
I'll get some water, and sorry, this is why I need to leave, bro. This is over. The years of this, it's broken. This setup got to change. My whole good setup is in LA. I gotta go grab that. But I'll tell you this. I'll tell you that. No, I have a nice PC and nice camera, DSLR, all that in my luggage in LA. Yeah, like anyone remember when I was living in Austin, Texas? That was a good camera, right? I have that all waiting for me, and that's why I didn't buy it. I'm just too cheap, bro. But I'll say this. It's funny how you hate, like as much as you hated when you first started this job, you never said I'm switching. It's almost like since you finished school, you have to see it through. You're like that. Where I would have been like, man, this is kind of a. What if you think, whoa, this is a sign? You know, you never thought that. Like I should leave this fucking
I
job.
did think that. I did wrestle with those thoughts for a long time. I went on Amazon. It's actually kind of funny. I went on Amazon the next day and I started looking at bulletproof vests. Like that was gonna be my first.
You're like a bouncer at the fucking job.
No, sorry, not bulletproof vests. They were knife-proof vests. But I thought to myself, maybe I should have something underneath just to prepare for it. That was the first thing I thought about buying as sort of the tax deductible for my business. Could you imagine explaining that to?
No, but you
the
have
IRS
had
or CRA?
you have had those moments where you've had patients where you tell me they were like maybe it's they change their voice into an evil voice and like they try and you've had a lot of weird shit. Like when I talk to the therapist that you're around, they don't have that many weird shit. It's almost like these cycles are coming right to you, bro. Like, for the first year, it wasn't so bad. After that, but then you started getting guys who were like, remember you would worry about the guy holding his pencil. You told me, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, I had a couple of clients.
Yeah, you looked shook when you told me. You're like, man. So
that
he was just. You said he just changed his voice, like in the movies. Like, hey, yeah. So it's like, imagine Chad, you're in there with some fucking. They're probably nerdy guys, right? And imagine he just goes, maybe it's time I kill someone, like because they're nerds. That's how they talk. So imagine you being a therapist and you're like, what the fuck do I do?
No, not at all. The reason why I was worried about this client that you're referring to is because I noticed as I was coming into the building, it was probably one of my first sessions. I was coming into the building and I see him outside smoking. I had never seen him smoke. And what we know about now is that people who suddenly start smoking again, and if they have a history of psychosis, it means that they're going through a psychotic episode, or it could indicate they're about to enter a psychotic episode.
Because they're entering a different archetype.
No,
like that's the capable archetype that's capable of doing that.
No,
they can't do it themselves. They have to be. That has to be. What the fuck?
It's a self-medicating. The nicotine is very helpful apparently for managing psychosis. So actually, with clients that I work with, patients that I work with who have schizophrenia, that would be one of the indicators we look out for. Have they started smoking? Is that an indicator that they're entering psychosis?
Oh.
And so that's the thing that clued me into this client. Obviously, we'll keep all the private information private. But that's the first thing that clued me in. So I'd already gone to the session feeling a little bit apprehensive, and then they had told me that there was a secret that they were keeping from me, and yeah, that's yeah. I won't get too much into that one.
Jung said that if you can get a client to talk about whatever is hiding back there, that they're cured forever.
Yeah.
Is that true?
90% of counseling is figuring out what the problem is. If you can develop a conscious awareness of it, you're 90% there. The last 10% is logistical. It's practical. It's pragmatic.
Crashfield says, my dream is